Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video, and today I'm going to take a look at the new Shopify subscription announcements. So last week Shopify had their monthly or quarterly, I'm not really sure, town hall where they announce and speak about new development concepts and new things that merchants and Shopify partners can do on the Shopify platform. And there was one topic on the agenda that really interested me, and which has been coming for a long time, maybe even years, and that is how Shopify can handle subscriptions. Normally, Shopify is not suitable for subscriptions because Shopify has their own checkout flow that you can hardly do anything with. So if you want to build a subscription business on Shopify, you'll need an external store or plugin that takes over the checkout flow and allows the customer to enter their credit card or Ideal or SEPA direct debit and create a mandate. But the default Shopify checkout flow does not support that. So last week they made some announcements on their new subscription APIs, and I'm going to watch the announcements, comment on this video, and see how we as Shopify developers can start making use of it and when we can start making use of it. So let's roll the video, and I'll make sure to comment on anything that is interesting to talk about. Wow. Is this a Shopify partner town hall or is this a real life TV show? Anyways, great that they're showing, I guess, houses of developers and merchants, but let's skip to subscriptions. So what you'll see next is Glenn Coates, the product director of, I believe, Checkout at Shopify, is going to tell us about subscriptions.
My name's Glenn. I'm a product director here at Shopify. And since the beginning of this year, I've been fortunate enough to be leading our checkout team. Now, through the madness of 2020, through the lockdown and all of this, our team has been busy building the future of checkout. And not just as a product for our merchants and for buyers, but as a platform for developers to build on. We've been doing things like improving performance, so increasing the number of checkouts per minute we can handle, reducing page load times to help conversion. We've been improving the cross-border capabilities of our checkout, helping it sell internationally. We've also been focused on extensibility. How can we improve the ability of developers just like you guys to build extensions, to build customizations for our checkout that don't take merchants off the upgrade path like some of our tools today. So that's really exciting, but it's actually not what I'm here to talk about today. Today we're talking about extending checkout in a new direction, and that's in the direction of a new business model, subscriptions.
So I guess what they're hinting at is that they've seen a lot of Shopify apps that offer subscriptions circumvent their checkout, and I think they don't want to do that. They want to have all Shopify purchasers or customers to go through the actual Shopify checkout. And I think the first valid reason that they state is they want to keep control of the checkout, make sure the user experience is right, make sure it's performant, and make sure that there's there's only one single experience for all purchasers who are purchasing stuff through Shopify stores. I think the second reason is a little bit more, I guess it's still valid for Shopify, but might not be too valid for app developers, and that is that Shopify needs to force customers to go over their own checkout because they can get money that way. Every transaction that is made through the checkout and through Shopify payments and through Shopify orders, Shopify earns their percentage share of those transactions. And I think that is one of the main reasons that I don't want people to build their own checkout flows and circumvent the checkout flow that Shopify by default offers. So good that they're working on a lot of improvements for checkout, and hopefully what he's going to tell us now will shed some light on how subscriptions play a role in that.
I'm sure many of you remember that we have talked about this before. This is not our first trip to the plate.
No, I think they've been talking about subscriptions for like a year now.
Last year at Unite, we announced support for subscriptions. We announced some APIs, and what happened is that we ended up getting a lot of feedback from both you guys in the partner community as well as merchants about where that set of APIs may not have been enough to allow you guys to build really great solutions for our merchants. So we heard a lot of feedback from you.
I'm not really sure what he's talking about because it seems that they already had some kind of solution for subscriptions. But to be honest, and we are relatively new to the Shopify like ecosystem, so I could be wrong. But I don't think they actually had subscription APIs. Maybe he's referring to the sales API that Shopify offers, that you can create like custom checkout flows and then push the last step on the flow to Shopify for the actual checkout. But that's not really doing anything with subscription. So let's see.
Guys and merchants, we went back to the drawing board and we thought about what do these APIs really need to be in order to not only support great subscription apps, but also potentially other ways of selling products in the future. So let me spend a minute on a couple of the principles that we kind of learned and then applied to the APIs that I'm going to tell you about. And I'll show you what this looks like in a second, but here's how we're thinking about it. First of all, it's really important that Shopify merchants are on the Shopify checkout. It helps ensure performance, reliability, and most importantly, compatibility with all of the customizations and apps that live in the Shopify ecosystem. So being on checkout, really important. Number two.
I guess that's fair. So the arguments that I just told you, so one is a single checkout experience, so Shopify can like monitor and make sure that the experience is good for all customers and that it's performant and etc. I think that's valid, and I think that the other argument that he's explaining now, that all the apps that have some interaction with the Shopify platform, they should just keep working, even if you're doing like weird subscription model kind of business models. And if a lot of custom apps start circumventing the checkout, then it reduces or makes it impossible for other Shopify apps that don't really do anything with checkout but maybe hook into something like an order generation or whatever, that they can also still make use of the apps that someone uses for subscription. So I guess extensibility and like compatibility with the other apps on the Shopify store is also a good argument that they want to keep control of the whole checkout experience.
It's really important for Shopify to model and have the data that represents how a merchant's business runs. For a subscription merchant, that means understanding what plans they offer, who their subscribers are, what schedules, who's paying, who's not, because that data really helps Shopify and other apps do useful things with that data that provides a more integrated experience for the merchant throughout all of Shopify.
I guess this is fair as well, and this hooks a little bit into the extensibility part. So apparently they do want all kinds of data in Shopify and not in some kind of external subscription management or billing management platform. So I guess they do want to have start building some part of like a subscription solution where payments are collected and where the active plan and contract is collected. And it's not really clear to me yet if Shopify is going to offer like a billing system in Shopify, because I think it would be hard to them, but let's see. But it is valid that, for example, in our business where we have a lot of rental and lease companies, something needs to happen when a payment fails. So in recurring order businesses, say you have a coffee subscription where the customer, where you ship out a pack of coffee to the customer, you can probably choose only ship out the package when the order is actually paid, so automatically debited from the credit card, or you just expect that if the charge is made and it is charged successfully, you can ship out the order. If something fails with that payment after the fact, you've only lost like one shipment of coffee beans, so the risk is pretty low. But in our clients have like multiple hundreds or even thousands of dollars of equipment that they rent out or lease out on a monthly subscription. So then you really want to hook something into failed payments, such as payment dunning, payment reminders, SMS, texts, maybe even snail mail, and eventually maybe even pass it on to a debt collection agency so that the payment will be collected in the end. And if that data is not in Shopify, then no one can kind of like build plugins for that specific part. So this is a good argument why Shopify maybe doesn't have to be the billing solution, but at least they want all the data in Shopify so that certain hooks from other developers can also be hooked into it.
Number 3, products can be sold in more than one way. Today on Shopify, what a product is and how it is sold are kind of the same thing, but we're really breaking that apart and saying what a product is, say coffee, and how it's sold, e.g. one time or...
Cool that he also takes the coffee subscription. And I actually think that fast-moving consumer goods in coffee is the most common subscription. So I guess that's a good sample.
As a subscription, they can be different. And so we're extending our product data model to allow for this new concept. Today it powers subscriptions, but in the future, it's going to power other ways of selling things like pre-orders, which I'm sure many of you are interested in. 4th.
So I guess this explanation is not just about subscriptions, but it's really about making sure that Shopify can get more flexible in supporting more than the traditional purchase and say goodbye like models where one-time payments are the traditional e-commerce stuff, but any proposition that is a slightly different or more complex from purchase and ship it out is currently not supported in Shopify. And I think that's been biting them in the ass a little bit for the past months now that we have a lot of modern like new business models coming up that are just different from selling a product and shipping it, but still include a physical product. So pretty excited that they're working on it and taking the extensibility angle so that it's not just about subscriptions, but it's actually about supporting multiple like types of businesses on Shopify instead of just a regular e-commerce one.
We believe subscriptions is a nuanced and complex space in which many different solutions will emerge to serve different types of merchants. So what a very large subscription merchant needs and a smaller one will be quite different. What a company in the food delivery space needs will be quite different than a cosmetics company sending out mystery boxes once a month. So our job is to create a platform that allows you all to build great solutions aimed at the merchants you really know and love and are trying to serve.
Cool. Okay, this is interesting because this is already like part of the story about does Shopify actually have their fully owned billing solution and will they kind of like cancel out all the apps that are on the Shopify store that provide subscriptions or like recurring order type of businesses. So I think they're going into the direction that they offer you API and extensibility features to build a subscription-like model on it, but they're not going to try and cover all of them. Maybe they're not even going to try and cover one of them, and they just require app developers to build subscription models with the new extensibility APIs that they will announce. It is interesting though that the samples that he mentions are only about kind of like recurring order subscriptions, food, coffee, whatever. And for us as Firmhouse, it's really more interested in can we also offer subscriptions on products that will not be shipped out on a regular basis, like leasing a bike where you pay a 12 month of 30 euros a month installments and you just get the bike once and then have that purchased from Shopify. So let's see if we can do anything with that.
So that's a lot of me talking. Why don't I show you what this can look like once you guys start building on this new platform?
Yes, show us, Glenn.
So let's imagine you're developing a subscriptions app called One More Time. Right here on the product page, because the app has installed a new subscriptions card.
Take a look at this. Coffee beans again. Every subscription is probably a coffee bean subscription in e-commerce land. So let's try and change that up a little bit.
Appears. And as a merchant, I can add a subscription plan to my coffee.
Ooh, did you see that? Let's go back like a few frames.
Let's imagine you're developing a subscriptions app called One More Time. Right here on the product page, because the app is installed, a new subscriptions card.
Interesting. So apparently there is an app installed. I'm not sure if this is a Shopify subscription app or a third-party app, but apparently there is a subscriptions card where things can happen. So I would be really interested in being able to take over this card and put some UI in here where our customers can link the product to our subscription billing portal or even do like creation and management actions in this card. So let's have a look.
Appears. And as a merchant, I can add a subscription plan to my coffee.
So this screen, is this Shopify or is this like a zoom in into a subscription app?
So I'm going to let buyers subscribe monthly for 10% off. I'm going to let buyers subscribe weekly at 20% off, and I can go ahead and save that plan. Now the coffee can be bought on a subscription. So if I go to the online store as a buyer, Liquid allows me to render the subscription option.
Cool, interesting. So he hints at that this new UI on the single product page where normally you would just have the buy now or add to cart button. This will allow like theme developers to render proper UI to show a subscription options checkout. So either one-time purchase or subscribe and save. And I guess this whole subscribe and save element is actually custom. So it's not delivered by Shopify, but it's either suggested, documented, or automatically implemented by the subscription app. So that's very interesting.
Purchasing, and I can go ahead and add the coffee subscription to my cart. As I go through the cart and the checkout, we're going to see that we are buying the coffee, but as a subscription.
Okay, so this is interesting. So I think they took the approach that by adapting or adding kind of like variants, I guess, on the product model, it is now possible to add a subscription variant or subscription option of that product into the cart. And that makes it possible to add subscriptions as products in the regular Shopify cart, which would usually not be possible or only possible by creating some kind of dummy or fake product that is then only the subscription product. So this is cool because this allows app developers to use the Shopify checkout instead of circumventing their own. And I guess that this label that is rendered in the Shopify checkout can be customized by app developers. Let's try and let's see if he now has an answer about like recurring mandates and how they're going to deal with recurring payments.
Actually, when we go through checkout, it's the Shopify checkout. So it has the performance guarantees and more importantly, the integration with everything else the merchant is doing with their business on Shopify. As I get to the end of the checkout, we're going to see that as a buyer, I must consent to having my card vaulted to pay.
Okay, so is this credit card only, or will they also offer more European subscription payment options like SEPA direct debit, maybe triggered with an ideal payment or a so forth payment? So this hints at only being credit card, but maybe there's options for payment providers to also implement other like recurring payment methods.
My subscription, and we are done. As a merchant, let's see what that order is like back in the admin. So we go ahead, click on that order, and we see that it's just like any other order that we can fulfill, except we see that the coffee has been bought as a subscription. If we look at the customer, we see that not only can we see the orders, but also the active product subscriptions that that customer has. And we can also see the stored vaulted credit cards on the right-hand side with actions to update or delete credit cards as needed.
So this is cool because I think the model that they've taken now that a customer can have active product subscriptions is exactly the same model as we have in our Firmhouse platform. You can have a customer can be subscribed to a plan or multiple products, and a product is kind of like a combination link to the actual product with the price, but also with shipping frequency and stuff like that. It appears that they have a cart, like a card on the customer page here that displays this information. And now I am really curious if this is like fixed data that they pull in this UI, or if you can also customize this UI.
Now, this is where you guys really come in. What happens when I want to manage this subscription? If I click the View Subscription link, it's going to take me into the app. And this is where you guys really do your work. What workflow?
I guess that's the answer, because apparently the overview of subscriptions on the product, like on the customer page in Shopify, that's fixed, maybe based on some static attributes on the subscription variant for the product. But it looks like that the View Subscription link will go into the like app bridge integration that a Shopify app can have inside the Shopify admin, and that all the management happens there. So that's, I guess, where they are passing the ball onto app developers to really create the logic in the Shopify app instead of trying to replicate all kinds of functionality in the Shopify admin UI itself.
Do you need to build so as a merchant I can manage my subscription and see all my subscriptions in one place? How do I see all the different subscription plans that I'm offering? How do I manage all this stuff? And as a buyer, when I go to the online store and want to log in and manage my subscription, how do I do that? What options do I have? Can I pause, cancel, upgrade, downgrade? How do you make this a really, really great experience? Apps are also responsible for scheduling and automating the billing of subscription. So what happens if that fails?
Oh, right. So Shopify is not going to do anything with the actual payment or shipment schema. So I guess the data that is in Shopify is only to display the labels in the checkout flow and maybe to have some metadata on the customer to see their active products. But the actual logic of billing and generating orders is still the responsibility of the subscription app and not of Shopify itself. So they're really building like a thin layer with metadata and some UI bits and probably a lot of APIs, but the actual hard work still needs to be done by the subscription app. So that's interesting.
Who gets an email? Is it a text? It's all up to you guys. You'll remember earlier I showed you an embedded extension right on the product page for setting up subscriptions. And this is what the dev experience for creating an extension like that looks like.
Hold on, let's refresh. So apparently there's this Shopify command line tool that you can create an extension, and he just chose something. What did he choose?
Embedded extension right on the product page for setting up subscriptions. And this is what
there's checkout post purchase, and there's subscription management. Okay. And he's going to select
dev experience for creating an
I guess he selected subscription management. Okay.
extension like that looks like. So from the command line, we can create a new extension, and we can actually serve a copy of this extension in local dev so you can see what it looks like as you're coding. So right here in your web browser, you can see this is what that extension will look like. Once you're ready, you can register your extension with Shopify, and then you can push your code up to the partner's dashboard. From the partner's dashboard, you can create a version of the code you've pushed, and you can publish that version out to the merchants who've installed your app. Those merchants, when they go to the product page, will then see your latest code right there on the product page in their admin. Cool, so this answers my initial question about is that box on the customer page, is that actually a Shopify UI or is it UI that we can customize? And it turns out that they have a new thing, which is Shopify extensions, which you, I guess, publish to your partner dashboard, and you can then like publish it to your app or customers so that that little bit of UI is displayed inside the Shopify UI. So I guess that Shopify UI is not like loaded in from an API that you propose, but it's actual code that you publish to Shopify, and then they maybe sanitize or check that, or maybe you can only have certain template tags in there that they can enter into the
their pages. So that's an interesting new approach. So it's not like talking to their APIs. It's not creating fixed extensions in Shopify on certain menu items, but it's actually uploading some code and publishing it in your Shopify partner dashboard. It's a new approach to Shopify development.
We've never done anything like this before. It's nuts, and it's just the beginning. So hopefully you see now the possibilities of what you're going to be able to build for subscriptions on this new platform. And I just encourage you guys to get really creative, and I'm psyched to see what you come up with for our merchants. Digging into the technical details there a little, what are the new APIs? Number one, selling plans. Selling plans let you model how subscriptions can be sold for the products in a shop. Number two, subscription contracts. So when a subscription is sold, what is that agreement? With who, for how much, when, all that good stuff. Number three, customer payment methods. So the vaulted credit cards that allow the subscriptions to be paid for when the renewals come around. And fourth is Argo, which lets you build those embedded frameless apps right there on the product page to allow merchants to set up their subscriptions right inside the Shopify admin. The key things that we need you guys to do a great job of are building great UX for merchants and buyers to manage their subscriptions, and to build the scheduling and automation that charges the subscriptions when the time is right. Some key dates. So today, the subscriptions APIs I've just talked about are in early access, and you can find more information about this on the partners blog or in the Town Hall Slack channel.
Okay, so today the API is ready for limited use. That's interesting. So let's see how fast we can get onto them.
End of October, some of the early beta partners that we worked with on these APIs will be releasing the very first new subscription apps onto the Shopify App Store. And then on January 1st, all of the APIs we just described will be going into stable, and any apps that you build will be eligible for review and release to all of our merchants.
Okay, so I guess that means that end of October, some elite preferred picked subscription APIs by Shopify can get onto this, which is valid. I mean, you do have like a beta test period, and you need to figure out these APIs with like app developers that are already on there. It kind of feels wrong for us because we really want to get into Shopify, and there's a risk that your app gets rejected by Shopify if you circumvent the checkout flow, something that we currently need to do. So they're now giving the big boys some advantage, and the rest of us can only start implementing this in January. So kind of have mixed feelings about that.
There's also going to be a Twitch stream on October 20th where Shane from our team will be walking you through how to build an Argo extension. So check that out on Twitch. And again, just thank you so much for your time and your support and your patience. And we're really excited to see what you build on our platform. Thank you.
So anyways, I think this is a great move by Shopify, and it creates real opportunity for subscription platforms like us who really want to leverage and help merchants already on Shopify, or merchants that just see Shopify as the go-to solution for their e-commerce platform to build subscription products. I think the approach that Shopify takes with extensibility and creating a thin layer to adapt the checkout flow a little bit is really great, because that means that the whole Shopify system stays like one. You don't get all kind of different checkout flows, and you still get the advantage of compatibility with all other kinds of plugins, or maybe even payment dunning procedures and things like that, because the data is all in Shopify. The only thing that I'm worried a little bit about are two things. One is anything other than cards. I mean, Shopify is big and getting big in Europe as well, but Europeans don't really use cards as much as maybe Canadians or people in the United States, because SEPA direct debit is just a really popular payment method in Northwestern Europe, and I guess the whole of like Europe that have like a smooth banking system. So I'm really curious about how European payment providers or how Shopify themselves will start offering SEPA debits on the checkout flow as well. Currently, it seems that it's only credit card with credit faulting, but maybe there are some APIs that you can still, I don't know, create a SEPA mandate or something else to charge those recurring billing charges that your subscription service needs to charge every month. Anyways, excited. I think I'll watch the 20th of October live stream as well. And I guess the biggest thing to figure out now is that new like extension platform Argo, I guess he called it, and see how we can get a hold of those subscription APIs to start prototyping and testing with it. It would be awesome to be the first app that offers rental or lease plans through Shopify on major scale on a European payment method. So that will be great. Cool, so that's the end of this video for now. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you got some value out of the additional comments that I made about the Shopify subscription announcements. There was lots more in that Shopify Partner Town Hall, but I'm not going to go through on everything because subscriptions is truly what we are most interested in for our platform as well. I hope to be posting a few more videos about like these kinds of announcements and discussing them and showing you how we implement them. So if you're interested in more like techie videos about doing things in the subscription and lease and rental world in terms of app development, then please subscribe and keep your eye out for our next video.